The space station floated in silence above a dying red star. It was a place where alien scientists worked, studied, and watched new species. For most visitors it felt cold, but for one human, it felt more like a trap. His name was Daniel, a simple explorer. He had come only to trade information and collect data for Earth. But the moment he stepped off his ship, he felt hundreds of alien eyes staring at him. The corridors were wide, glowing with soft blue lights. Strange machines hummed in the background. Every sound echoed, making the human feel small. Yet there was also something else, a strange curiosity in the air. Among the aliens, one woman stood out. She was tall, with silver skin that shimmered under the lights. Her large violet eyes blinked slowly as she watched Daniel walk. She tilted her head, whispering to the others, but her voice carried in the silence. "It's enormous," she gasped. Her words made the others laugh nervously. She stepped forward, her eyes never leaving Daniel. "How do humans even walk with that?" she asked, her tone full of wonder and disbelief. Daniel froze, unsure if she was mocking him or truly curious. He glanced around, realizing every alien was staring at him the same way. They were not looking at his face, not at his uniform. They were looking at his body itself, as if he carried some secret they could not understand. The alien woman moved closer. Her steps were slow, graceful, but her eyes were sharp like a predator's. Daniel's heart raced. He had heard stories of alien research stations. Some welcomed guests, others dissected them. He suddenly wondered which kind he had walked into. She circled him like a hunter studying prey. Her hands moved as if to touch, but she stopped inches from his chest. Her breath was warm when she whispered again. "Is it true humans are stronger than machines?" Daniel forced a smile, though his chest tightened. "I'm just an explorer," he said softly. But she tilted her head as if she did not believe him. The other aliens began to close in. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. One of them hissed in their language. Another scribbled notes into a floating holographic screen. Daniel's instincts screamed at him. This was not a friendly welcome. This was an observation, a test, maybe even a trap. The alien woman's voice was calm, but her words cut deep. "Humans carry something impossible," she said. "We have read stories, but we must see it for ourselves." The doors behind Daniel slid shut with a hiss. He looked back, his escape path already sealed. The hum of machines grew louder. He could hear the pulse of the station itself, like a heartbeat surrounding him. The alien woman finally smiled. It was not cruel, but it was not kind either. It was the smile of someone who had found a mystery too big to ignore. Daniel knew one thing. He was no longer a guest. He was the experiment. And somewhere deep inside, he realized the question she asked was not just curiosity. It was a warning of what was to come. The air inside the alien station grew heavy. Daniel felt it pressing on his chest, as if invisible hands were squeezing him. The doors had locked behind him, and the silver-skinned woman still watched with those wide violet eyes. Her smile never faded, and that only made the silence more dangerous. She raised her hand, and the other aliens stopped moving. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the hall. "Do not frighten him yet. We must learn carefully." Daniel swallowed hard. The word, "yet," echoed inside his head. He tried to keep calm. "I came here to trade," he said, his voice steady. "I have charts. I have records, nothing more." But none of them seemed interested in his words. Their eyes were still locked on him, scanning him up and down as if every movement was evidence of some secret truth. The woman finally stepped back and gestured for him to walk. "Follow me," she said, her tone leaving no room for refusal. Daniel hesitated, but the walls of the corridor pulsed with light. He realized the station itself was alive with sensors. If he refused, the walls might close in. He followed her through twisting hallways. The blue lights shifted to green, casting eerie shadows on the floor. Each corridor felt narrower than the last. He noticed how doors slid shut the moment he passed, sealing him inside. It was a maze designed to trap. As they walked, whispers followed. Other aliens peeked from chambers, their eyes glowing in the dark. Some hissed, some laughed nervously. Daniel could not understand their words, but their tones carried a single truth, fear mixed with fascination. Finally, the woman stopped before a wide chamber. The door opened with a slow hiss, revealing a room filled with floating screens and strange glass tanks. Inside the tanks were skeletons of creatures Daniel did not recognize. Some looked like twisted versions of humans, others like beasts from nightmares. His stomach tightened. This was no place of peace. This was a laboratory. The woman turned to him, her face calm. "You carry weight your body should not survive," she said. "Our records show humans should not even walk upright. And yet you do. Every step a violation of nature." Daniel tried to laugh, but the sound came out strained. "Humans are just built this way," he replied. But she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "No creature is built this way without purpose." She touched one of the glass tanks, and a skeleton lit up with glowing lines. "This one tried to copy your form," she said. "It failed, its bones shattered, its heart collapsed." Her violet eyes returned to him, sharp and unblinking. "Why do humans not collapse?" Daniel stepped back, but the walls hummed. He could feel the energy closing in. This was not just a question, it was a demand. They wanted proof. The woman tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. "You will show us," she said firmly. Her words were not a request. They were an order backed by the weight of every alien eye in the room. Daniel clenched his fists. He had to think. He could not reveal too much. If he admitted weakness, they might cut him open to find answers. If he appeared too strong, they might see him as a weapon to be caged. One of the aliens stepped forward holding a glowing device. The air buzzed as it powered up. It pointed the scanner at him, but Daniel pushed it away. The sudden move made the crowd gasp. For a moment, silence filled the chamber again. The woman's lips curved into another smile, but this time it was sharper. "There," she whispered. "Even when threatened, you move with control, with balance. Not even our strongest can push back against that device without falling." The aliens muttered among themselves. Some took notes, others hissed in fear. Daniel realized the trap was already tightening. They would not let him leave until he gave them what they wanted. The woman raised her hand again, silencing the crowd. "You are a puzzle," she said softly. "And puzzles must be solved." Daniel's chest tightened. He knew what was coming next. This was no longer curiosity. This was the beginning of an experiment. The chamber lights dimmed. The tanks hissed, and the machines began to wake. Daniel looked for exits, but every door had sealed. He was surrounded, trapped in a cage of glass and steel. And the silver-skinned woman took one step closer. Her violet eyes burned with hunger for knowledge. Her whisper cut through the silence like a blade. "How do humans even walk with that? We will find the answer, whether you give it to us or not." Daniel stood frozen as the machines hummed around him. The air smelled of metal, oil, and something sour. The chamber was alive with strange light. Glowing lines raced across the floor like veins. He could feel the weight of every alien eye fixed on him. Each gaze was sharp, hungry, waiting for him to make a mistake. The silver-skinned woman raised her hand, and the machines slowed. Her eyes stayed locked on him. "You are stronger than you appear," she said calmly. "But we do not know why. That is what we must understand." Daniel's heart raced, but his face stayed calm. He had been trained for negotiation, not survival experiments. Yet every instinct screamed that this was no simple study. This was dissection dressed as curiosity. He forced his voice to remain steady. "What you ask cannot be explained in numbers or bones," he said. "Humans survive because we adapt. We endure. We push even when we should fall." The aliens murmured, confused. They did not understand the meaning behind the words. The woman tilted her head. Her silver hair reflected the green glow of the chamber. "You speak of endurance, but endurance has limits," she whispered. She stepped closer, her cold eyes scanning him like a weapon. "Your bones carry weight our kind cannot. Your muscles resist collapse. Even now, in our gravity field, you stand without trembling. No other species lasts this long." Daniel blinked. He hadn't noticed until now. The air was thicker, heavier than before. It pressed against his chest and pulled at his legs. They had increased the gravity without warning. A test. He shifted his stance, refusing to bend. But each step forward felt heavier than the last. The crowd of aliens hissed softly, impressed. Some even recoiled as if watching something unnatural. The woman's lips curved into a faint smile. "You see," she said to the others, "even with the weight doubled, the human does not fall. This is not myth, this is truth." Daniel clenched his jaw. His body ached. but he would not give them the satisfaction of weakness. He knew what they wanted, to see the breaking point of a human, and he would not show it. He scanned the chamber. Behind the glowing tanks, he noticed shadows, shapes hidden behind glass walls. At first he thought they were statues, but then one moved. Daniel's chest tightened. Inside the glass cells were bodies, failed experiments. Some had extra limbs twisted in strange angles. Others were thin, their bones shattered inside their skin. Creatures that looked almost human, but broken. He realized the station had been trying for years to copy his kind. The woman followed his gaze, and her smile sharpened. "These are truths we discovered before you," she said. "They tried to walk as you do, but they fell. They tried to carry as you carry, but their hearts burst. Your kind is the only one that endures." Daniel's throat went dry. This was more than curiosity. This was obsession. These aliens were desperate to learn the secret of humanity, and they would tear him apart if he gave them the chance. He forced himself to keep speaking. "Strength is not just in muscle," he said slowly. "It is in will. Humans walk because we refuse to stop. We stand because we do not accept falling. That is what makes us endure." The aliens whispered louder now. Some looked shaken, others angry. The woman, however, only smiled wider. "You speak of spirit," she said. "But spirit can be measured. We will measure yours." She raised her hand, and the gravity increased again. Daniel's knees buckled. Pain shot through his legs. The floor seemed to drag him down. Every breath burned in his chest. The aliens leaned forward, waiting. Would the human collapse like the rest? Daniel gritted his teeth. He thought of Earth, of the people waiting for him. He thought of survival, of every story told of humans refusing to die when logic demanded it. And he forced himself to rise. Step by step, breath by breath. He stood tall in the crushing gravity. The chamber erupted in gasps. The silver-skinned woman's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked almost afraid. Daniel locked eyes with her. "You wanted to know how humans walk with that?" he said, his voice strained but steady. "It is not weight we carry. It is the will to keep moving." The chamber fell into silence. The aliens stared in awe. But in their silence, Daniel felt no safety. Because awe could turn to fear, and fear could turn to violence. He knew one thing. He was deeper in danger now than ever before. The chamber lights dimmed until only the glowing floor remained. The silver-skinned woman raised her hand, and the other aliens stepped back. Her violet eyes locked on Daniel with sharp intensity. "You speak of will," she said slowly. "But will must be proven, not spoken. You will show us now." Daniel's chest tightened. He already felt the heavy gravity pressing on him. His legs ached, his lungs burned. Yet he stood straight, refusing to bend. He could sense what was coming. A trial, an experiment designed to break him. The woman snapped her fingers, and the chamber walls shifted. Panels slid aside, revealing strange machines. Weights suspended by glowing energy fields lowered to the ground. A track extended across the floor, its surface shifting like liquid metal. The aliens hissed with excitement, their whispers filling the air like wind through a graveyard. Daniel glanced around. It was a testing ground, not for study, but for survival. The kind that left bodies broken inside the glass tanks he had seen earlier. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked carefully. The woman smiled, but there was no kindness in it. "Refusal is failure. Failure is death. We will learn from you either way." Daniel's stomach turned. They didn't want answers in words. They wanted to see him break. But if he survived, if he endured, maybe he could gain their respect, or at least time to escape. The woman raised her arm, and the test began. The gravity spiked again, pressing down like invisible chains. The liquid track shifted under his feet, tilting, rolling, trying to throw him off balance. Daniel staggered, caught himself, then forced his legs to move. One step, then another, each one heavier than the last. The aliens hissed, taking notes. Some pointed devices at him, measuring his heart rate, his breathing, his muscles straining. Daniel could feel his pulse pounding in his ears. Every step was a battle. He thought his legs would snap, but he kept moving. The woman's voice cut through the noise. "Your body fights against the weight. But what of your endurance? How long before the human fails?" Another machine whirred to life. From the ceiling, heavy blocks of glowing metal dropped onto the track. Daniel had to dodge them as he walked. The track shifted again, steep slopes rising like waves. The air grew thicker, each breath scraping his lungs. Daniel pushed forward, sweat dripping down his face. He remembered his training on Earth. The endless runs, the survival drills, the instructors yelling that a human could always take one more step. That thought burned in his mind now. One more step, always one more. The aliens gasped as he climbed the shifting slope. His arms shook, his back ached. But he reached the top and stood tall. For a brief moment, silence fell. Then the floor opened, and he dropped. Daniel landed hard in a pit filled with swirling energy currents. They lashed at his skin like lightning. The pain burned through him. His body wanted to collapse. But he forced himself up again. The woman watched with wide eyes, her calm mask cracking. Still, she gave another command. Increase the field. Push him beyond the limit. The energy currents doubled, sparks flying across his arms and chest. Daniel roared in pain, but his roar turned into a growl of defiance. He lifted himself against the pole, his body shaking violently. Every muscle screamed, but he did not stop. He climbed out of the pit, his clothes torn, his skin marked with burns. The aliens fell into stunned silence. They had expected him to break. Instead, he stood before them stronger than before. His chest heaved, his eyes blazing with fire. The woman stepped closer, her voice lower now. You should have fallen. Even our strongest would have died in that field. How is this possible? Daniel met her gaze. Because humans do not stop. We don't break. We endure. Her eyes narrowed, a strange mix of awe and fear flickering within. The crowd behind her whispered louder. Some wanted him studied further. Others hissed that he was too dangerous. The balance was shifting, and Daniel could feel it. He had passed their test. But in doing so, he had proven himself more than they had expected. He was no longer just a subject. To them, he was becoming a threat. And that, he realized, was even more dangerous than failure. The chamber was silent except for the hum of dying machines. Daniel stood in the center, his chest heaving, his clothes scorched, sweat dripping down his face. The aliens around him whispered in uneasy tones, their eyes darting between him and the silver-skinned woman. Some trembled with awe, others hissed with fear. He had survived their test, and that survival had changed something. The silver-skinned woman stepped forward slowly, her violet eyes locked on him. There was no laughter now, no mocking curiosity. Only a sharp hunger, a dangerous spark behind her calm smile. You are everything the records promised, she said softly. You are more. Daniel tensed, ready for another trap. But instead of ordering more machines against him, she dismissed the other aliens with a wave of her hand. The chamber emptied, leaving only her and the human inside. The heavy doors slid shut, sealing them in silence. She walked closer, her steps echoing on the metal floor. You wonder why we test you, she whispered. Why we push you to breaking. It is not only science. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then what is it? He asked, his voice low. Entertainment? A game to watch me suffer. Her eyes flashed with anger, but it faded into something else, fear. She leaned in close, her words sharp but trembling at the edges. My people are divided. Half of us believe humans are sacred, beings of strength beyond logic. The other half see you as tools, machines of flesh to be used until broken. If they decide you are dangerous, they will cut you apart to learn your secret. If they decide you are useful, they will chain you and force you to fight for them. Daniel's stomach turned cold. And you? He asked. What do you believe? Her violet eyes softened, the first sign of emotion he had seen from her. I believe in survival, she said. And you? You may be the only one who can give me that. Daniel frowned, confused. Survival from what? She stepped back, her gaze flicking toward the sealed door as if afraid someone was listening. There is another faction, she whispered. Stronger, darker. They want to conquer more than knowledge. They want weapons. And they believe humans are the perfect design. They want to build armies in your image. And I am caught in the middle. The words hit Daniel like a weight heavier than the gravity fields. Clones, armies, slavery. If what she said was true, humanity was in greater danger than he imagined. She moved closer again, her voice urgent. I kept you alive through the test. I gave commands that spared you. Others would have killed you already. I need you to trust me now, because soon, they will come for you. And I cannot protect you alone. Daniel's instincts screamed not to trust her. She had trapped him, tested him, nearly broken him. Yet her eyes no longer held the cold shine of a scientist. They held desperation, the kind that came from someone who was already running out of time. "Why help me?" he asked carefully. "What do you gain from this?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because I am not like them," she said. "I was born weaker, smaller than the rest of my kind. I was cast aside, mocked, ignored. When I read of humans, I saw myself. A people who should fall, but never do. A people who carry weight they should not survive. I want that strength, Daniel. And I believe only you can show me." Her confession cut through him. She was not only curious, she was desperate. She saw in humans what her own kind lacked, and she had risked everything to protect him. Before Daniel could answer, alarms blared across the station. The walls shook and red lights flashed. The woman's face went pale. "They know I kept you alive," she whispered. "They are coming to take you. You must choose now. Trust me and escape, or stay and be torn apart." Daniel clenched his fists. His heart pounded. He didn't know if she was savior or traitor, but one thing was certain. He could not survive alone. The heavy doors groaned as figures approached from the other side. The woman grabbed his arm, her grip cold but strong. Her violet eyes met his with raw urgency. "Decide, human," she whispered. "Do you trust me?" The sound of metal grinding filled the chamber as the doors began to open. Shadows moved on the other side, soldiers armed with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Daniel had seconds to decide. Trust the woman who had tested him, or face the storm alone. The chamber doors groaned open, metal grinding against metal. Red lights pulsed across the walls. Alarms shrieked like dying animals. Daniel turned as shadows poured into the room. Armed alien soldiers, their armor glinting in the crimson light. Their weapons hummed with energy, sharp beams aimed directly at his chest. The silver-skinned woman pulled him behind her, her violet eyes flashing with urgency. "Move when I tell you," she whispered. Daniel's muscles tensed, his instincts screaming to fight, but he forced himself to wait. He did not trust her fully, but without her, escape seemed impossible. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward, his armor black and jagged. His voice cut through the alarms like a blade. "The human is too dangerous. Surrender him." The woman's tone stayed calm, but Daniel could hear the edge beneath it. "He is mine to study. The council gave him to me." The soldiers raised their weapons higher. The council changed its mind. "He is not subject, he is threat. Step aside." For a moment, Daniel thought she might obey. But then her hand flicked across a hidden panel on her wrist. The floor beneath them cracked open, metal plates sliding apart to reveal a dark tunnel below. "Now," she shouted, grabbing his arm. Daniel leapt with her, the world spinning as they dropped into the black. The tunnel swallowed them, the sounds of soldiers above fading into echoes. They landed hard on a sloping floor, the surface smooth like glass. Daniel slid, struggling to stay upright as the tunnel carried them deeper into the station. He finally caught himself against a wall, his breath ragged. The woman stood beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. "This way," she whispered. "They will lock every corridor, every chamber. But they do not know of these paths. Follow me if you want to live." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Why should I trust you? You tested me, nearly killed me. Now you expect me to believe you're saving me." She stopped, her face tight with anger and something close to sorrow. "I had no choice," she said. "If I had not tested you, they would have destroyed you at once. I needed them to see what I already knew, that humans endure, that you are different. Now, because of that, we still have a chance. But if we waste time, we both die." Daniel studied her face in the dim light. For the first time, her calm mask seemed broken. She looked almost fragile. Her desperation was real. And though his instincts told him to be cautious, another part of him whispered that survival was only possible together. Before he could speak, the tunnel shook, a blast echoing from above. Dust rained down, and the sound of boots thundered from behind. The soldiers had found the hidden passage. "Run," she hissed, pulling him forward. They sprinted through the twisting tunnels, their footsteps echoing. At every turn, Daniel felt the walls closing in. The air grew hotter, thicker, as if the station itself was fighting against them. The woman tapped glowing panels hidden in the walls, opening secret doors and sealing them shut behind. Still, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Finally, they burst into a vast chamber filled with towering pipes, and engines. Steam hissed from vents, drowning out the alarms. The woman leaned against a pillar, her chest rising and falling. They will not stop. Once the council names you as threat, there is no trial, no mercy. You will be studied as corpse. Unless. Her voice trailed off, her eyes meeting his. Unless you trust me, fully. Not as captor, not as enemy, but as ally. Daniel's breath came heavy, sweat dripping from his brow. He remembered her words in the chamber. That she had been born weak, cast aside. That she saw in humans what her own kind could never be. And now she stood before him, risking her life to keep him alive. Above them, metal groaned as the soldiers forced their way into the chamber. Their shouts echoed, their weapons glowing. There was no more time. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low but firm. If I trust you, if I fight beside you, there's no turning back. We stand together, or we fall together. The woman's violet eyes widened, and for the first time, she bowed her head. Together, she whispered, because only together do we have hope. The soldiers stormed in, their weapons ready. Daniel clenched his fists, his body screaming from the earlier tests. Yet his spirit burned stronger than ever. And at his side, the alien woman raised her hand, activating hidden machines within the chamber. Blades of light flared, shields of energy hummed to life. For the first time since arriving on the station, Daniel felt something shift. He was no longer prey. He was fighter. And with the strange woman at his side, he was ready to prove once again what it meant to be human. The engine chamber shook with violent energy. Steam hissed, metal groaned, and the red glow of alarms painted every wall. Daniel stood tall, his fists clenched, the weight of exhaustion heavy on his body. Beside him, the silver-skinned woman raised her arm, strange controls glowing under her touch. Together, they faced the advancing soldiers. The black-armored leader stepped forward, his weapon humming with deadly power. Stand down, he ordered, his voice booming through the chamber. The human is no longer subject, he is abomination. Hand him over, or you both will be erased. The woman stood firm, her violet eyes burning with defiance. No, she said, her voice sharp and clear. He is proof of what we cannot be, and I will not let you destroy him. The soldiers moved in, weapons raised. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. Every muscle ached from the trials, but he refused to fall. His voice cut through the chamber like steel. If you want me, come and take me. The first wave of soldiers rushed forward, energy bolts slicing the air. Daniel dodged, the heat grazing his arm. He grabbed one of the attackers and slammed him against a pipe. The station shook with the impact, steam bursting into the air. The other soldiers hesitated, shocked at the raw force of a human body under pressure. The woman activated the controls, sending arcs of light across the floor. Energy walls rose, splitting the chamber and trapping several soldiers on the other side. Still, more poured in, their glowing blades slashing toward Daniel. He fought with everything he had. Punches, kicks, desperate moves fueled not by training alone, but by will. Every strike was heavy. Every roar from his throat a reminder that humans never stopped. The leader stepped forward at last, his weapon burning like fire. You are a mistake of nature, he hissed. No species should walk with that strength. You will end here. Daniel's chest burned, his body barely holding. But he met the leader's gaze with unshaken resolve. You call it mistake, he growled. We call it humanity. They clashed, the leader's blade cutting through the air. Daniel caught his arm, forcing it aside. Pain ripped through him as sparks seared his skin. Yet he pushed harder, using every ounce of strength left. With a final roar, he slammed the leader into the ground, the weapon shattering in a burst of light. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of steam. The surviving soldiers stepped back, their eyes wide with fear. No one moved against him again. They had seen enough. The woman stepped closer, her face pale, but her eyes shining. You have shown them, she whispered. You have shown me. They will not forget this. None of us will. Daniel's chest heaved, his voice rough, but steady. You asked how humans walk with what we carry, he said. It is not bone, not muscle, not weight. It is hope. We carry it when the world wants us to fall. We carry it when no one believes we can. And we keep walking, because hope is heavier than anything else. And we never let it go. The woman lowered her gaze, her lips trembling. For the first time, She bowed her head before another. Then you are more than subject. You are answer we sought, and the beginning of something greater. The soldiers did not attack again. Instead, they retreated, dragging their broken leader away. The alarms faded, the chamber dimmed. But Daniel knew this was not the end. Whispers of what he had done would spread through the station, through the stars. Some would fear him, others would follow. And the war for humanity's legacy had only begun. The woman stepped to his side, her voice softer now. You have a choice. Leave this place and return to your kind. Or stay, and together we change everything. Daniel looked at her, the strange ally who had once been captor. Her people had mocked her weakness, but she had chosen hope instead of fear. He saw in her a reflection of humanity itself, broken, doubted, yet unyielding. He nodded slowly. Then we walked together. Because humans don't stop, and neither should you. The station lights flickered, the engines roared. And as the two figures disappeared into the tunnels, one thing became certain. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.